Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 7.35B tier list for position 4s in Dota 2. What are the good position 4s? Well, as usual, we're going to start with the shit ones first. Starting with Mirana. This is the one hero on her lonesome in the shit tier. And as a level 17 Mirana picker myself, it brings me a lot of pain to inform you she has a 42% win rate on Dota 2 Pro Tracker. That's bad. And there's a few reasons for this. Number one, a lot of the heroes that counter her are very popular. For example, Abaddon is an S tier carry, and of course, as a 4, you're going to be laning against Abaddon, and he can just take off your arrow on the 5 position. You have no kill threat because of that, and your laning sucks. Another thing that makes her laning bad is that when they made all of these heroes universal, including Mirana, they subsequently reduced the stats and stat gains on a lot of these heroes. Mirana got hit very hard by this, and so even with stat items, her base damage isn't very good until you have a bunch of levels, which makes her laning fairly bad. On top of that, she doesn't really have a build that feels great currently. The previous builds people would go for on Mirana are like Yule's as a first item. Yule's Rush is not really a thing on any hero right now. Maybe a Spirit Vessel. It feels like there are better vessel builders than Mirana. Solar Crest. She's more of an offensive hero. There are better defensive heroes to pick in the 4 position. So she feels outdated. She needs some love from Valve. Okay, getting into the D tier, we have my boy, Pudge. Actually not a bad hero. I think the Veil into Eternal Shroud build made it so that this hero is genuinely viable in the offlane and as a 1 position, because there didn't really exist a good build for him, and that was his main issue. However, those items are not position 4 items currently, and he's just going to sit in lane, missing hooks like normal as a 4 position, being kind of useless. And a lot of these offlaners that are currently popular are melee heroes. So those heroes don't really want to Pudge in their lane. Enigma, very similar to Pudge in the fact that this is actually a very good hero ever since they changed Eidolon so that they gain a percentage of this guy's HP. They got a lot more annoying to kill and a lot stronger. So Enigma got a lot stronger. Vlad's is a very strong item. But all of these things that I'm mentioning kind of require you to be a core position hero. Especially because Eidolons now cost HP to summon as well as mana. So you need a bunch of items to get regen and sustain through that, which makes him not a great 4. Clockwork, a lot of these D tier heroes are just honestly good heroes. Like Clockwork, they just gave him a little bit of stat gain on his strength. They also made it so that his overclocking no longer stuns him. Instead, it just basically roots him in place. This is good. Clock is a decent hero, but I feel like for what you want out of him, which is basically a guy to go in, suicide in fights, probably get like a Solar Crest drums, these like cuck support items, you're better off being a 5. I think Clock is a good 5 position. He plays well with the carries that are picked right now, like the Luna, the TA, these ranged heroes. Offlaners don't really want to Clock in their lane. Clinks, this is also a hero that's fairly decent in the other roles. He's probably like a B or C tier carry. He's okay. Maybe an underrated carry. I just haven't seen a lot of it. Decent mid as well, going for the phylactery build. But the big reason why I don't think this hero is a good 4 position is because Solar Crest is no longer an offensive item. And that was the main build that people were going for on him to get solo kills. And so he lacks that. Now you have to go phylactery. That's more of like a core thing that people are doing. Earth Spirit. Earth Spirit is just generally a bad hero. I would say that his main role is 4 position. There was a little bit there where he was mid because his Q one-shot range creeps at level 2. But they made it so that his role, now the cooldown, it starts ticking down once the role ends rather than when it starts, which means that buff where they made it so that he's invulnerable during the roll, there's a lot more downtime where you can actually kill this motherfucker rather than him feeling immortal like he felt for a couple of patches where he was being played as a mid. Muerta, finally. This hero, basically, they nerfed her W, they nerfed the duration on it, they nerfed the slow on it in the early levels, and the reason that this hero was picked as a 4 position and as a 5 position is because her W was essentially just like an ultimate at level 1. It was way overtuned, they nerfed that, and as a result, she has completely fallen off from, honestly, all roles. Like, she just feels like an over-nerfed hero at this point. Okay, moving on to the C tier. I don't know why it's scrolling like that. We have Wind Ranger. So I think this hero is good. it's a solid hero. They changed it so that power shot slows by a fairly significant amount, which is very annoying in the laning stage. Her late game with a Diffusal into Disperser, which is an OP item, plus a Daedalus, plus the Aghanim Scepter, is ridiculously OP, but this makes her mainly a carry. She wants a lot of items, she's good with a lot of items, and so people are playing her as, honestly, like an S-tier carry, and probably like an A-tier mid currently. So if you're really good at it, you want to play it as 4, go for it. But other than that, I would not recommend it. Skywrath Mage, this hero has been relatively unchanged, if not slightly buffed in the last few patches. But with that being said, the heroes that combo with him are not very good. Legion is not that good. Axe is quite bad. Sand King is not that good. I underrated him in the previous video, but he's still not an S-tier offlaner by any means, at least in, pro-level pubs. So all of these heroes being shitty makes it so that Skywrath Mage feels kind of bad because he's a combo hero, and the combo heroes with him are just meh currently. Shadow Demon, what they've recently changed about him is that his Q now grants more damage to the illusions. However, they get less base damage from the illusions, which makes this hero worse against illusion heroes, worse against universal heroes, and that was kind of one of his nice niches before, was to counter those heroes. So that kind of sucks. I guess on average, it makes him better just in normal games. But all of his other spells don't really matter so much. What matters is that his ultimate counters Spirit Breaker. You press it on him, it purges his Bulldoze, and you can actually kill this fucking Space Cow. And Space Cow is S tier currently. So Shadow Demon is pretty much only viable because of that. But other than that, he's fairly weak. Weaver, you're pretty much going to go for a Vessel on this hero no matter what as a 4 position. He's very good in the late game. Once you get to the Aghanim Shard as a 4, you can honestly go for Desolator. You can go for the Diffusal Blade. You can go for all of these items eventually if your game is very good, but you have to have a game that is very good. You have to be a specialist Weaver player to make it work as a 4. It's another hero that really likes items. It is very strong with items, but as a 4, if Solar Crest was offensive, this is another one of those heroes that would do very well because he really likes the minus armor, but it's not offensive. It's a defensive item now, so he has fallen off a little bit as a 4 because of that, but he's still decent. Dark Willow, I think this hero suffers mostly from a meta switch. When the meta was Midas into Octarine Core on pretty much every hero in the game, you would have 5 Midases versus 5 Midases. Dark Willow was one of the best late gamers in the game because her W had very little downtime. I think it was 0.5 seconds of downtime with an Octarine, so she was nigh unkillable and did a shitload of damage with her Aghanim Scepter. That's not the build anymore on any hero. Midas is a bad item, so she has fallen off because of that. They also nerfed her W so that you can't have that amount of downtime on it anymore. A Shadow Shaman, I hope that I'm underrating this hero. The win rate just doesn't seem that great. People are not really picking it so much. But the changes that they've made to him, which is his Shackles now heals him. His W now provides some damage amplification. I think they buffed that in subsequent patches as well. He feels decent. I mean, he was really bad for a really long time. So the fact that he even feels decent is good for him. I think he'll be S tier at some point if they keep giving him these minor buffs and maybe the meta shifts where there aren't a ton of heroes that can interrupt his Shackles and get on top of him, etc. He still feels a bit clunky. That's the one issue with him, but he's okay. Snapfire, so they just changed her little shredder, so it does a little bit more damage. I think that's all they've changed with her recently, other than the fact that her ult in 7.35, they buffed it to a little bit more damage. So her laning is relatively the same. I don't really feel the little shredder changes, at least from what I've seen. People are playing this as a core position here, going for Diffusal, and then little shredding and doing a ton of damage, building into an eventual Disperser. That feels good. But as a 4 position, that's not really a thing. But you are going to be playing around Faceless Void as a carry, who's an S tier carry. Even Wind Ranger, who's being played as a carry, you can shackle into Snapfire ult. So the fact that her ult does a little bit more damage, I think, makes her decent. And she really likes to play with a lot of the popular offlaners. Centaur, Beastmaster, both really like having a snap in their lane because you have the double nuking, and then you have a good cookie target as well. Rubik. So they changed a few things about this hero. They gave him a little bit of int gain. They reduced the cooldown on telekinesis, which is really nice in the late game, especially for the Aghanim Shard. Once you get that, you can lift people out on your team and save them, which is very good right now with a lot of the stuff like the Chronos and the black holes and stuff you can save people from. And speaking of Chrono and black hole, there's a lot of really good stuff to steal in this meta. There's Earthshaker, there's Tiny, Void, Magnus, like a lot of these heroes where you can get these big steals on important spells, they're good. Rubik's laning is the only thing that he has issues with. His laning kind of sucks because when they changed Fade Bolt to have barely any damage reduction, he massively fell off. But he's decent. He's just S tier in some games, shit tier in other games. Caudle, similar to Wind Ranger in the fact that I think as a mid hero, he's very strong right now, particularly because he doesn't lose lane to anything. You can't just like cheese pick and beat Caudle in lane. He will always get his farm, which is really nice. But as a 4 position, obviously that doesn't matter so much. He is decent with the Solar, with Glimmer, with Force, with these items that are quite strong right now. But you have to pick it with certain heroes in lane that want to be spamming spells. Like you can get like a Sand King plus Caudle. You get the double Burrow Strike. That feels pretty decent. You want to combo with this hero as a 4 position. But as a mid, because you have that extra cooldown reduction with the Chakra Magic, he feels way better as a mid. So good hero, but okay 4. Invoker, very similar. The EMP Shard, dragging people in is still very fucking annoying. He's a great vessel builder. Cold Snap, Tornado, EMP, that combo, people are still running it. Sunstrike does a lot of damage at level 1. But all of these things, I think, are stronger if you're a mid laner. And I realize that I'm saying that a lot, but in Dota, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you're looking at it right now, there are a lot of heroes that are just S tier, and because of that, they can be played in support positions. Earthshaker is not one of those heroes. I don't think he's a good mid anymore. A lot of the mids that are popular right now will currently shit on him. But this is a 4-tier list, so as a 4... it's a little bit similar where Earthshaker in a vacuum, which I realize I also say a lot, is good because they've increased the range on his Fissure. They've increased the range on his Aftershock. They just gave him a little bit of damage on his ultimate. All of these things are great, but if you're laning into a Clockwork, you feel really bad. If you're playing into a Tiny who can avalanche you and interrupt your combo and toss you in, it feels pretty bad. So I would say he's got issues with the meta currently. And the offlaners that are currently being picked don't really want just a Fissure bot sitting in lane with them. Maybe if there were a lot more ranged offlaners being played and you could just have this hero throwing Fissures in, then you'd be good. But if you can get past the laning stage, this hero's good. Like he's C tier. I'm talking like he's dog shit, but he's decent. He's okay. Moving on to the B tier, we have Mercy. I don't know why I said it like that. This hero, pretty much since they reworked Sidekick, so that it's permanent and not shit. She has been an alternative for Io, which means she's very good with a lot of the current carries. Luna plus Marcy is amazing. TA plus Marcy is amazing. And I realize I'm talking about a 4 position, but I mean in the game. And then with a lot of the popular offlaners, the Beastmasters and Centaurs of the world, yes, you are playing melee with melee, but she is a kill combo. Tossing back into one of these heroes can be quite devastating. So it's all right. And then once you get past that point of the game, you get a Solar Crest, and then sidekick your carry, and you're basically just a buffing bitch, which is fine. It's a really good way to win Dota currently. Speaking of buffing bitches, Grimstroke. They've nerfed this hero quite a lot. They reduced the cooldown on his, or they increased the cooldown rather on his ultimate. They have reduced everything on the Inkswell shard. They reduced the Inkswell talent. They've really tried to nerf this hero, and it still feels just so fucking good. Ever since they made it so that you can manually proc the Inkswell explosion, he's been solid, and it's still good. He's still really good. Tiny's also very popular. DK's good. Like, there's good heroes with the Grimstroke currently being picked. Phoenix. I think Phoenix's main goal right now, the reason you would pick Phoenix is because Lone Druid is fucking imba, and it's the #1 Lone Druid counter in the game because you can kill the bear. It's percentage damage on the Sunray. The bear just slowing it in the laning phase and slowing it in team fights with the fire spirits, which are now easier to hit because the projectiles move faster. That feels amazing. But if there's no Lone Druid in the game, then Phoenix is just decent. It's better if you have a Mars or a Faceless Void and you can like combo with the egg. That obviously is going to work out. And those are very popular heroes, but it does require certain picks to be in the game. And if they are, it's S tier. Techies. This hero's laning is now amazing because his Q has a much larger latch radius. It feels almost impossible to miss. It does a ton of damage. It makes him incredibly potent in the laning stage. It makes him incredibly potent at killing people. Techies is a hero that requires a lot of skill. You have to be able to jump in, triple bomb, quick cast really works out for that. His W being able to be manually procced is really nice too, because you don't have to put it on yourself and then like time it so that it's like it procs once you jump in. Instead, you can just jump in, use it, then people can't attack your mines. But still, you should quick cast those mines. Otherwise, you're going to put one down and do not enough damage. But Techie's solid hero. I think it's just people don't know yet. Bounty Hunter. A lot of people are maxing his Q now and just spamming the shit out of that in the laning phase. It's very strong. They buffed it a billion bajillion times. Bounty Hunter also is a hero that enjoys a lot of the very popular items right now. Orchid is strong. It's good on Bounty. Solar is strong. It's good on Bounty. Drums is strong. It's good on Bounty. And I would just say that the one issue with him is that you are going to be playing with probably a melee hero, as I've mentioned, with a lot of these other 4 positions. And so, but it does exist in the same category as Marcy, where a lot of the time you will get kills with that hero. It's just that if it's more of a passive, like harassing style laning phase, then BH is decent at that because his Q is spammable, his W is spammable, but he's still a melee hero, right? It's never going to be as good as a range guy. Speaking of range guys, Pugna is fine. They nerfed his agi gain. They nerfed the uptime on his nether ward. These things don't feel hugely significant. But Necro fell off. Pugna was a huge Necro counter, so people picked it against that. Still, his Q does a ton of damage to towers because I can't remember what patch it was, but they made it so that it does more damage to towers, which means that you still max that. You still push the shit out of towers with mana boots, but Pugna is not exactly what he used to be. Disperser also definitely being popular hurts him quite a bit because that, of course, does have a dispel with it, and then somebody can't be slowed by the Pugna W either. But Pugna's still fine. Like, I say all of this, like, negatively about Pugna because he was S tier before. Now he's just B tier. Io, so the tether now applies damage per second, which is fucking awesome. It's very strong at laning with certain heroes, like a Slardar or an Abaddon. Then I would say Io becomes S tier because the kill combo with those heroes is just impossible to dodge in the laning phase if you have the lane pulled back even remotely. Like, an Io is going to kill you. And then also, it's a sustain hero in the laning phase, which is currently very strong. But with that being said, you have to be able to play this hero. Spirits feels like a wasted ability. Unfortunately, unless you go for an Aghanim Scepter, which nobody's doing that on a 4-position IO. The ult also, it feels like being able to relocate around the map is not hugely impactful because the gates are still being used by everybody, and the map is so fucking huge, but also very accessible. Towers don't matter that much, etc. So Io's solid. Tusk, I think Tusk has been really good since they made it so that his Icy Hands has a built-in passive slow. Now, even if he doesn't have that ability available, you can't trade with him. It's very hard to kill Tusk. He can save his team by just running in and putting that aura. It's like a mini Shiva's Guard aura, just built into an ability that was already very good. So Tusk is super solid and also very good at ganking side lanes and very good at ganking the safe lane. And if you're laning against like a Death Prophet or a Viper, something like that, as an enemy offlaner, then Tusk can go through the portal, rotate on one of those heroes, and just fucking murder them over and over again. Arc Warden, I still think that the Atos plus Pipe plus Aghanim Shard build where you're just maxing magic resistance is insane. It's like you become unkillable. But you can only pick this hero as a 4-position on Dire, which is really weird. So it's like, if you're on Dire, he's S tier. If you're on Radiant, then he's like C or D tier. So he gets to fit into B tier because of that. Okay, guys, here's where it gets interesting. Because one thing that I want to say about the A tier is that these heroes are so much fucking better than the B tier heroes that I don't see any reason to ever pick anything below them. It's like, I almost wanted to have an empty tier below this, and then even an empty tier below that, where the C tier heroes are even worse than the B tier heroes. And the reason that all of this is true is because the best heroes currently in Dota are support position heroes. The most OP heroes that have the highest win rates are supports. So these heroes are very fucking good. Pick them every game if you're good at them. Gyrocopter. The big thing with this guy is that his Q does a lot of damage in the early levels. There is no hero in Dota currently that outtrades a Gyro. You are going to win lane. You are going to get kills in lane. Then you pick up the Aghanim Shard, which puts the Q on the rocket. He's so fucking annoying. You can build into an eventual Veil. You can build into Solar. All of these items feel really good on him. he's busted. Batrider, universal hero that really enjoys building a lot of the current popular items. Drums is strong. Mage Slayer is strong on Bat. No, it no longer, unfortunately, applies to Sticky Napalm, but barely matters because people don't even level that as a 4-position Bat. They increased the slow on his W, which when that slow was very high in the early levels, that's when he was an S tier position 4. So it's back to being decent at level 1 now. And so people are leveling that, using it to harass in the laning stage with his ridiculous universal hero damage. And he is back to being solid. Hoodwink. So Hoodwink, they have massively increased the range on all of her stuff because when you go in the trees with her E ability, it gives you, when you activate it, gives you extra attack range, extra cast range on Bushwhack. Bushwhack's damage got buffed a lot. Her Q damage got buffed a lot. So her laning is incredible. And then in the mid game, her damage is incredible. You can pick up an Ethereal Blade, which builds from Ether Lens now. She was already going for Ether Lens plus Ethereal Blade when those weren't combined items. And so now that build is fucking insane. I see a lot of top tier 4 positions spamming Hoodwink, and it looks really good. And she really enjoys playing with the melee guys in the offlane. In fact, all of the heroes that I've listed so far in the A tier love playing with the melee guys. Monkey King. So I thought this hero was absolutely S tier at the start of this patch, and I still think that he is. It's just that all of the 4s are so broken that the A tier 4s are S tier heroes in general. So that's where I'm at with Monkey King. And the reason that I think Monkey King is so strong is because, number one, he one-shots couriers now, which means it's very fucking easy for you to go into base at level 1, kill a bunch of couriers, get a bunch of courier kills behind tower. On top of that, he is one of the best just random item enjoyers in Dota. Like, if there's a broken item, you can just go for it on Monkey King, throw it on enemies from trees, and he's good. Although with that being said, people are going for Mage Slayer into Diffusal Blade into Disperser as a 4 position, which on other heroes doesn't really work, but on Monkey King, it does. That has always been the build people have done on 4 position Monkey King, and those are now the busted items. But if you don't want to build that and you want to go defensive, you can still sit in the trees, scout for your team, snipe couriers, and build a Solar Crest and just be that kind of tree sitting, throws items on people type hero. Orchid also very strong for similar reasons. Nyx Assassin. Extremely strong against current meta heroes. I would suggest probably wave cutting the first wave if you're Nyx or Spirit Breaker, which we'll get to in a second. Essentially, if you're pretty much any melee hero, I would suggest like wave cutting, playing the first few levels to just get the lane back and farm. But Nyx Assassin, if you're playing into like a Morphling or a Luna, any of these heroes are quite easy to stun with Carapace and burst from full HP with Nyx. Dagon is a strong item. Everybody is straight up just going Dagon. I've seen some Phylactery. The mana burn on his ult is fucking insane. Nyx Assassin has had quite a high win rate for a few patches. I think he's been kind of low-key busted, and now he's just high-key busted. Everybody's playing him. Tiny, they did a lot of different changes to him, a lot of buffs to him. They increased the damage on his toss. They increased the damage on his avalanche. They increased the damage you gain from toss, from his ult. They decreased the cooldown on his tree toss ability, which is really nice because it means you can pick up trees more and use that for laning. It's great outside of laning phase for convenience, but in the lane, it's like very, very strong. So Tiny is absolutely solid hero. I think Veil is probably pretty good on him too. The new mana boots, he really likes the new mana boots. The fact that you can you could honestly start Basilius on this hero and it's probably fine. Although maybe you want boots, maybe you want laning items, whatever. Still, I really enjoy the new mana boots on him. I see everybody going for those. Spirit Breaker. Oh man, this hero is so friggin' annoying. Like, it just makes it feel that if you're losing even remotely, the map closes off. The build is still just... Actually, the build has changed. It's not Midas anymore because Midas is bad. The build is now Phase Boots, Drums into Shadowblade, into Octarine Core, Lincoln Sphere. Like, it's still the same unkillable, Bulldoze on low cooldown, Charge on low cooldown, Spirit Breaker. And the Lincolns is amazing because the only items that really deal with the Bulldoze are single target. It's Eul Scepter and Nullifier that really counter Spirit Breaker. So I really like going for the Shadowblade into Lincolns rather than going for the Octarine first, unless it's a very good game. Spirit Breaker, still OP. Very OP. Venge, her ult now deals damage, and her ult gives a shield for the same amount of damage that it would have done to an enemy. So she's good at killing people. It does a lot of damage, and she's good at saving people because it puts a very powerful shield on people, which of course scales with armor. So it's not like, you know, the previous damage reduction. It's like, oh, that's gone. The scaling is no longer there. Shields do scale in Dota. It's how it's been since they added all of these shields to the game. So these new changes to Venge, on top of the fact that her W reduces damage and is low cooldown and does a lot of damage for low mana costs, and her stun is super strong, especially with an Aghanim Shard, which makes it bounce. All of these things make Venge insanely busted right now. Very strong. Okay, finally, we get to the moment you've all been waiting for. Happy birthday. The one person who it's their birthday is like, holy fuck, dude, he got me. Okay, S tier. Nature's Prophet. Fuck me, dude. This hero just does not fall off. People are going TP first and TPing in, putting really good wards down, sometimes even putting courier sniping wards in base, and then just sitting there and waiting for the TP to come off cooldown, running out, sniping couriers. Like, the tech on this hero has improved to the point where everybody's just really, really good at being annoying with it. I do think you have to be good at it, but a lot of people are good at it because it's been meta for so long. Sprout still does a lot of damage. People are going for the Aghanim Shard, keeping people in Sprout, you know, making the damage even more. Sometimes Orb of Corrosion, which has been changed. Solar Crest feels really strong on this hero as well. He's very similar to Monkey King in the fact that he can just buy any item. So if there's a broken item, you just get it, and then the hero feels busted because he's very good at getting and using any item. He farms as well because he can just go anywhere on the map. So Nature's Prophet, S tier hero, also an S tier 5. Pretty much every single game this hero gets banned. I have very rarely seen it played at all. Either it gets banned at the start or two people pick it as a first pick, and then it gets banned based on that. Lion, man, what a fucking strong hero right now. Everybody is going 1-1-4 because Mana Drain now deals damage. It is very strong. Like, before, it was this choice of, do I want to be annoying and drain their mana in the laning stage and then in the mid game, or do I want to deal damage? And now there's no choice. You do both with max Mana Drain. In fact, the level 3 to level 4 of Mana Drain doubles the effectiveness of it for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why it scales like that, but it does. So you really want that 4th point in it. And when you get it, plus the Aghanim Shard, good lord, dude, you are just absolutely dealing a shitload of damage. It feels like you're unkillable because of the magic immunity. And then you can also drain mana into your team. So it's like playing with the Coddle, except he has a stun and a finger, and he does lots of damage, and he drains the mana of the enemy guy. Like, you could play against like a Faceless Void or Anti-Mage or something like that. You mana drain these heroes in just a few seconds, and then all of a sudden they have no mana. It doesn't matter that they have this escape. And even if it did, Lion's a stunner. So you can just fucking kill them anyway. You can, jump and burst anybody with Lion. Like, Lion does way too many things currently. This is one of the best heroes in Dota, if not the best hero in Dota. He was good before because they buffed his Q, they increased the range on it, they increased the speed on it, they increased the damage on it. Like, everything about this hero was already good, and then all of a sudden, boom, guess what? You're Pugna now. You're also Pugna without having to have an ultimate that's draining people and then healing your team and giving your team mana as well. The amount of times I've been an offlaner where I'm just out of mana, Lion sucks me and then drains me, and that's like, holy shit, I don't need regen with this hero. He just drains a creep, then drains me, and then drains them. They have no mana. It does way too fucking much, man. This hero's busted. Completely busted. Anyway, there's the whole list. I don't know why I'm talking like Mario right now. But that's it, guys. See you.